Man, we got a great guest joining us in the morning that I wanted to have on specifically because he keeps it real and talks this talk every day out there. Follow him on 247 Sports. Make sure you follow Carl Reed, Coach Reed Live on X and on Instagram. And follow him because he'll give you the updated information on NIL, on transfer portal, on all things college football. So make sure you follow him. Our main man, welcome him in. Carl Reed. What up, Coach?
What's good, my brother? How you doing?
Man, I'm hanging in there, brother. I'm glad you joined me, man. I saw you yesterday on an interview with someone talking about the lack of black coaches, and I was like, man, I've had this many conversations with my boys who are black about this, and I said I gotta get Carl on here, man, to talk about it. So I think getting it from a white boy from Compton might stir some folks wrong, but it's gonna be a good talk. What's going on with you right now, man? You got everything going on the show, getting ready for college season again, or what?
Man, excited about the college season. You know, a lot of good teams, a lot of good players. Obviously, you got to recalibrate because of all the roster movement with the transfer portal. So you got to see if guys fit, how they fit. You know, it's a lot of guys who got some money or offered some money, but they're not going to get paid. So that's going to get an element to it, man. So just all the changes in the game right now, really locked in and focused on those.
Let me ask you that. So right now, I got Matt McChesney on after you. He comes on 3 times a week. Colorado buff. He's had Dion on his show, and he played there, a legend there. Played in the NFL 7 years, and he covers everything in Boulder. And he's alum there, obviously. Last time they really won when he was there, 04. But let me ask you, like we go back and forth on this whole thing. So right now, what's up in the air? And correct me if I'm wrong, is this revenue sharing situation that's out there. And I've had all these guys on my show every day, every week, from Eric Weddle to Tank Johnson to Shaun King, who's on later. And they're like, listen, you go this route, it's the NFL Division II. That's what it really is going to be. It's Division II of an NFL because now then they're going to want to be employees of their institutions, correct? They're going to want not only TV money, which will be their salaries like the NFL salary would be, and then it would basically deflate, I guess, the worth of what an NIL would be now. NIL is now going to be kind of like your marketing campaign to get that side money, which in the NFL would be your commercials or your ad sponsors. That is what the NIL would be if the revenue share is what the billions of dollars are saying it is. Wouldn't that be, in essence, what it is?
Yeah, if I was the players, I wouldn't want this because it's going to also put a cap on what the top guys can make, and it's a way to get their money under control. They want to do this because this is going to stop your second-string offensive guard from leaving because he's going to make a little money. So they want it. These are more for the depth guys, you know, them pushing for a move like this. But if I was one of the top guys in the country, if I was going to be a first or second round pick, I wouldn't want this at all. They're going to end up making less money if they agree to this. And also, when you become an employee, you know, there's rules that come with that. There's regulations. There's going to be things that they're going to be able to say you can and you cannot do. So if I was a player, I wouldn't want to unionize. I wouldn't want it to be I wouldn't want revenue sharing. I would want the game to be exactly what it is right now if I was a player. But I do understand why the coaches and the administrators want it like this.
Yeah, it's interesting. I gotta get you on with Matt. You gotta get him on your show. He had Dion on, and I know you had him on. They become close because he covers them. But he thinks they should unionize. He's been saying it for 2 years. I'm on your side kind of on this thing. I think that these cats are chasing greener pastures, and with the transfer portal being as open as it is, I mean, you got this thing open during bowl season, like or whatever they call it now, college football playoff season. Like the quarterback who helped Texas win 3 games left during the damn finals. Like, what are we talking about?
The way to win, he had to though, based on the way that the window was.
Right,
you know
and that's not their. That's
not his fault. And Matt, who's a wealth of information, not only was he a great player at Colorado and he's great at covering it, he also is one of the best offensive line trainers in the country. He does great work. But I understand why he wants him to unionize, because he's an offensive lineman and he trains a bunch of linemen, and this is going to be beneficial to the guys that he deals with the most. So I do understand his point of view on why he would support something like that. But if it was me, I wouldn't want this. If I was Jermaine Johnson, who played for you at Independence, who ended up being a first round pick on the Jets, I wouldn't want this because it's going to put a cap on the money that he can make. So
Tank Dell, similar, that played for me. Guys like that, they don't know what they'd get, and he went to a Houston.
Like you don't want that if you're those guys. But I do understand that when people who are college football purists look at the situation, they feel like, well, something has to be done about this. But I tell everybody all the time, it's the college coach's fault why we're here in this position anyway. They're the one who screwed the system up, and players had to start getting lawyers involved. They were doing some really, really hateful things to kids, and that's just the truth.
Meat market, man. Pieces of meat. Kids are a piece of meat in the meat market. I've been saying it for years. It's what they are. We were the piece of meat in the meat market when we played as well, but now it's glorified and magnified because of social media, money now involved, and the ability to leave and chase greener pastures without really having to toughen your skin and be checked and stuff like that. I got to ask you, like, once you become a state employee, and if you're a private school, let's say Wake Forest, Vanderbilt, Stanford, Cal, USC, Duke, they don't got to report.
No, they don't.
You don't got to show your salary as a coach. You don't got to see what the kids are making. And then when kids miss practice and we don't know why, we won't know why because they don't got to show it. And the other thing is people don't realize that these private schools, you're going to get bereavement pay if you're an employee. You're going to get sick leave. You're going to get benefits. Like, I'm trying to figure this 401k. Is that what we're giving the kids now, too, at 17 to 21 that don't even know how to change oil in their car? We're going to make them call them in faster than they need to be?
When people make rules, there's always unintended consequences that they haven't even thought about or haven't even started to consider. And some of the things that you're mentioning are those unintended consequences. So I think that everybody should take a deep breath. And if I was in charge, I would just say I would more so attack what the collectives are, right? Which is turned into a play for play because name, image, and likeness was not about the collectives, but those guys found the loophole in the rules as well. I would get away with the collectives, and I would tell players however much money you can get for yourself off the field or through YouTube monetization, social media monetization, whatever you do, that's your deal. We don't really care about that. That's how it really is in the pros, from their marketing standpoint. We're not going to put any limit on you for what you can do from a marketing standpoint, but we're not going to allow collectives are recruiting more aggressively than the college coaches. We got guys running collectives. I mean, you think about them, they're former college players, a lot of them. Some of them were working in recruiting departments at other universities. So the people that are running the collectives are being just as aggressive in recruiting as the guys on the staff are being.
And Coach, I'm going to be honest, I think that is what is allowed. That's why, in my opinion, coaching has been watered down because I think coaches now are dependent on collectives to actually go do the work. And we got guys that will not go visit certain kids in high school or go recruit organically, I like to call it, from ground roots level because I think they're dependent on collectives paying for those guys. And then the coaches now are becoming so lazy in teaching. I don't believe that they're teaching like we used to teach. Like I see a bad product going from there to the NFL, especially at the QB position.
Well, think about this from this standpoint. Imagine you're going to recruit a guy and you've got a relationship. So you're the college coach and I'm the high school coach. That's a role we've both been in before. So you're my guy. I know that you're the right coach for this guy. I know that he needs your mentorship, your leadership, your guidance, and your structure. And his parents, they trust me, and they trust you because they trust me. But now when it gets down to it, you lose him because the guy in the necktie can't get the kid $200,000. He only got $75,000. So the kid and the parents make the decision to go for the money because, light bill is what it is. Maybe he's got a kid early and, all of those things that bring in money come into play. And now the kid ends up in a tailspin because he ends up somewhere where he shouldn't have been. And he's not being developed and he's not being mentored and he doesn't have what he needs. And so the people who should be the most influential in that decision, which is me as the high school coach and you and the college coach, we're no longer powerful in that situation. What we say no longer matters. Whoever can come up with the most money for that particular kid in that situation is typically going to get the kid, unless the kid has elite level guidance, which you and I know most kids don't have.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, the thing that you brought up is funny. Like, I'm looking at this, these coaches now that are doing this, and are they really like? So you remember, you've done this for a long time. You've been setting this recruiting up. USC, Sark gets the job, and he offers. Let's just put it in today's perspective. He offers a 28 kid, a freshman. And he's offered, and he's on that 28 kid for 3 years, and he's recruiting the hell out of him. He's got a huge relationship built with him, mother, grandma, auntie, whoever's calling the shot. There's no longer any of that going on, correct? Because why would I do it and waste my damn time? Because of Alabama come in and give you a bag on 23rd hour of signing day after 4 years of relationship building. He's gone. You wasted your 4 years.
It doesn't even benefit you to spend that amount of time with a kid. You know, you're going to get in much later now because it's going to come down to the money anyway. So if it's going to come down to the money, let's just wait until the money conversation comes up. Let's see how the kid develops. Let's see what I'm willing to spend, where I'm willing to get in at. It's more like speed dating than relationship building.
No question.
And when it turns into that, you also end up making a lot of mistakes, JB, because now you don't get to know the kid as well, right? Over those 3 years that you're recruiting him, you may find out that he's not the kid for you and that you're not the coach for him. And that's also important when you're trying to build your culture. But because we're speed dating now and we're doing it based on money and based on talent, we're not even building those authentic relationships. So now I got a kid and I don't even like him. Right. I know people don't look at that, but I'm coaching him. I don't like him. He doesn't like me. The family and I don't like each other, but we never got a chance. That's what's an important part of the recruiting process too. And we never got an opportunity to do that with each other.
And I know Dabo a long time. He sent me a kid to Compton back in 2008 when he was a wideout coach for Bowden before he took the job. And it's going to be hard. I find it hard to find him either getting on with trying to be part of the Joneses and keeping up with the Joneses. I don't know if he'll ever do it. Will it be the detriment of his career? Maybe in this new age. I don't know. But I don't mind him standing on business and saying, you know what? You can't play here. You're not good enough. The portal kids are not good enough because he has the same mindset I would have in this particular landscape. I would be like, you know what? This was my mindset back in the day, and this is why the players that I had did what they did and moved on. I'm not taking you from another school. You couldn't play there. So if you couldn't play there, what the hell thinks you can make you think you could play for me here? And I think that's the standard you set at your institution, regardless of the outside noise that everyone wants to say, oh, he needs to get on with the Joneses. But nah, I got a higher standard here. You can't play here if you could not play at North Carolina. See, today we're taking too many USC coach, a USC kid left USC, went across the street to UCLA and came back.
So come on. That is one way to look at it, right? And I understand Dabo's position. But what about guys like Keon Coleman, who was a starter at Michigan State and went to Florida State and helped take them over the top? Guys like Jared Verse, who was a starter at Albany, an FCS school, goes to Florida State and is a first-round pick. A.J. Cornelius started at Rhode Island. He's at Oregon now, starting at right tackle. He's going to be a first-round pick. Those guys could have played at Clemson. And those guys have tremendous character, and they have tremendous character value. So I agree with you from a standpoint that he shouldn't take a guy that was a backup at North Carolina State, right? But there are 20 to 50 guys in the portal who were legitimate starters that entered the portal to either help with pro positioning or they did want more money, right? That he would be a major player with if he got involved with those kids because he's an excellent recruiter and he's great when he gets in front of people.
Let me ask you this, though. Is that luck of the draw? Let's say you said 20 to 30 guys or maybe 50 even. How do those 50 guys land in the right spot? Because we're calling out certain guys. We've seen the Jalen Hurts, but he went from Alabama being coached by the greatest ever. He lands in Oklahoma. He wins the Heisman. He does a great job, but it's a 1-year borrow. And then he goes on to the NFL, you know, a high pick. And we've had those scenarios. Baker Mayfield's another one. We've had guys that have done it. Russell Wilson, the first one, who's a grad transfer, goes from NC State to Wisconsin. The rest is history. How far and few between are those 50 kids, though, on how they land at the right spot? Because if you can't build a relationship, which you and I have already established, it's a hit and miss guessing game, isn't it, on how to get that verse to Florida State and hit with them? Like, how do we know he was a great kid at Albany, FCS school that's really not known for football, and now we get him to Florida State as a first rounder and the Rams make a steal? Like, how do we know that guy's that guy? When we really
that's no different. But to me, that's no different than high school recruiting. It's probably only 50 to 75 high school kids who could really play at Clemson or Alabama or Georgia.
Yeah.
And they're all fighting for those kids. So I think you use the same evaluation process when you're applying with it. When you're applying that part of it, I think that you evaluate, you look at fit, you meet with the kid. If you meet with Jared Verse, you're going to see right away that he's a great culture guy. He's got a great family. He's got great parents. He's got great respect for his mother and his father and the sacrifices they made for him. So he's just an example I'll use as a guy who would have fit perfectly in the culture at a place like Clemson, who would have been fine. There are some kids, if you know Dabo, I know him as well. There are kids that are not going to be a good fit for him because he's not going to bend on his core tenets for his culture and his rules. But there are several players who are elite players that are also great human beings and add a lot of value to the locker room. The guys who make the headlines that are jerks, we talk about them a lot because they move the needle for us on media. They make our YouTube checks bigger. They make our revenue share bigger. But they're great players who don't get in trouble, who don't cause problems, who add tremendous value to locker rooms. That would be a benefit to the roster there.
I argue this with Matt all the time. I'm like, dude, there's a reason why everyone there's 5,000 channels out there on YouTube that talks about Deion and Colorado every day.
Made a lot of guys a good amount of money.
And I tell Matt all the time, I said, so why wouldn't we talk about him? Why wouldn't we talk about it? You talk about him. Everybody talks about it. You've had him on your show. Everyone talks about him because there's a reason. It might not just be him. It's the program, right? Shador, Shiloh. Yeah. It's something in that program. Same thing here. Like, we're talking about transfer portal and NIL. That's number 1 and 2 discussions you can argue in college football for the next until it changes. Unless it maybe never changes. I don't know. But now it's going to be revenue sharing. Then it's going to be something else. And I don't know, man. This is a slippery slope when we get to talking about unionizing and employees of something that you've never even had a job at McDonald's yet, but you now are going to be beneficiary of a college employment W-2. Now, are you paying tax? Like, there's so many things that they have not thought of. So it's a different deal. I want to dive into this, though. This is what caught my attention, and I think I can give you a great perspective from someone that's helped many brothers move on and get jobs at the D1 level like I have. But I wanted to show the audience the discussion you guys had yesterday. Take a listen.
We aren't seeing black coaches being able to elevate and take that step. Why is that such a hard thing for us to get to, and only having 8% of coaches that are black in college football right now in 2024?
If you get into it, you don't get into an elevator on the 4th floor to go to floor 8. You have to start at the ground floor, which is floor 1. And I think the biggest thing regarding black coaches and why there's so much of a struggle is many young guys do not know the barrier for entry into the profession. Most guys that are playing major college football that I talk to, they are dreaming of the National Football League. So what happens is they end up spending the majority of their 20s chasing playing football. When they don't get drafted, when they don't make a roster, they want to go play arena ball. They'll go play semi-pro ball. They'll go play ball in Japan. So now they end up 30, 32. They got a wife. They got 2 kids. They can't afford at that point to go be a GA and work the entry-level jobs. So they're not able to get in at the point of entry. They don't have a sense of, what am I going to do when I don't make it to the league, right? I'm not going to the NFL. I've got my evaluation back. The scouts are telling me I'm not a draft pick. My head coach is telling me I'm not a draft pick. But I did get the education, which is what every parent tells you they want from their kid when they go to college. That's often we find out that that's not the most important thing to them. That's not the truth. So they're not educated and or willing to be a graduate assistant or start off in a low-level analyst job. The spaces that you need to do to work your way up and build the relationships that you need to build in order to climb through the coaching ranks so you can be in some of those key positions, because most of them spend their time chasing football. And it's not just coaching. You can be an agent. You can be in media like us. There's a lot of lanes within football where you can have success, and guys have to be able to accept when they're not going to the National Football League. And if they were to go online, you see what these coaches are making. You can still buy your mom a house and take care of your family in a major way by coaching the game of football.
Carl, it's interesting. I tell people that all the time. When do you know to stop trying to chase the money and make it to the NFL, which we all were born into believing we're going to make it to the league as high school kids or Pop Warner, we want to play in the league. Number one, to address that, I don't know if they're as hungry as we once were. I don't think football – we had a kid that just got drafted and retired before he even went through OTAs to be a TikToker. And it's crazy, Coach, because like you look at it like the dream that we worked our butt off since little kids all the way to make it, and you get drafted. It has to start resonating with GMs, head coaches to say, okay, are we really evaluating these cats out of college to waste a draft pick on a cat that didn't even play for us? He got a little first round check though. So I'm trying to figure out if the investment is really there. Cause I look at the kids' bodies, Coach. I look at everything. I don't think it's even close to what it is. We got 900 injuries in the NFL last year, all-time high, most of them being soft tissue. That tells me that something's not right in the workout regimen or the investment in their body. No one wants to have that discussion, though. But it is what it is. And you brought up some interesting points. I used to tell these cats, like, man, that's why I was giving away free housing and board in Indy to get the young coaches there. I can't pay you, but guess what? What I would have did at 21 to go coach for free, but I could live for free? Shit, I would have been doing that anywhere in the country. I would have went to anywhere and did that. But I don't believe we have the right people telling these youngsters, dog, it's time to get into this profession. My question to you is, when do you do it? Like Trent Richardson's on here all the time during football season, and you know, he obviously got drafted. He made it and played for the Colts and the Raiders and had a pretty decent career. It wasn't the career he wanted coming out of Alabama as one of the best ever maybe out of Alabama, but he came in and he says today, Eddie George, who I talk to all the time, and I help talk to his staff all the time about recruiting. Same thing. He's like, man, I wish I could have changed it. I was a Heisman winner. Of course, I knew I was getting drafted, but like at some point, I wish I knew when to cut it off, and I would have went right back into GAing and got my degree and went back to GAing at Ohio State. And knowing Urban Meyer and knowing these guys, I could have probably been a head coach at a Power 5 by now. And when do you cut that off, I guess?
Well, because nobody tells those guys the truth. I don't think most guys that play don't have self-awareness, especially when they're playing or when they're trying to play. So I'll use, and I'll give you one example. I had a kid that played for me, Ronell Perkins. He started at the University of Missouri, but he didn't make it to the NFL. He went as an undrafted free agent to the 49ers. They cut him. CFL, you get cut. XFL, you don't make the team. Well, they're telling you that you're not going to play in the league when that happens, right? So he goes through the second round of tryouts, and he's like, well, coach, I'm thinking about going to Japan. I think, no, your former college coach at Mizzou, Barry Odom, has a GA spot open at UNLV. You're going to go to UNLV and you're going to be a GA. Well, he goes and he GAs. Barry eventually bumps him up to an analyst. Now he's getting paid. He's one of the top young DB coaches in the country. And if you look at the trajectory of his career, he's going to end up making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 as a DB coach. You're learning how to do the whole defense from one of the best defensive minds in football. He's going to make exponentially more money than guys who played in the NFL that played, the 3-year average. But you have to push him in that direction because he was well prepared in that moment with no direction to go to Japan and play football. Well, who does that ever work out for, right? So you got to be honest with guys. I remember, JB, I was at an FCS game. I was watching Lindenwood play Murray State, right? One of my former players was playing. And I turned to, and I played in that league. I played at Austin Peay. And I turned around to one of my buddies during the middle of the game, and I said, damn, man, who in the hell allowed me to think that I was going to the NFL from here, right? Why did they, even at 18, 19, and 20 years old, allow me to believe that? Why did they not have me prepared to go right into coaching? Why did they not have me prepared to go be a GA? Why did nobody have that conversation with me? And that's the truth. The NFL is going to let you know if you're not going to the league. When you get your evaluation back from the NFL draft advisory, it's going to say you're a first round pick, you're a second round pick, or you're a day 3 guy, or you're going to the house. They're going to give you an opportunity to work out. And once you see that it doesn't, it's time to move on. And you just don't have to coach. You can be a coach. You can be an agent. You can be a scout. You can be a front office person. You can be in the media. You can run a scouting service. There's a lot of things that you can do to make a substantial amount of money in the game of football. But guys are so committed to playing. There was an Arena League game, here the other day with the Nashville Cats, and you watch that game and you say, man, how many of these guys would be making a lot more money coaching if somebody would have said, you know what, bro, you're probably not going to the NFL from here. And we all are going to well, Kurt Warner did it. You know what I mean? We're looking at Kurt Warner. Well, I mean, Kurt Warner did do it, but he was the player of the year in the FCS, and he won 4 Arena Bowl. Like, he's an outlier. Yeah, but for the most part, it's not going to happen. And so when you don't go into being a GA, when you don't go in and say, well, man, I got an opportunity to go to one of the top JUCOs and have free housing, at the point of entry, right? You're not giving yourself an opportunity to get into the profession at the level that you want to be in.
Yeah, 1%er, Kurt Warner. Like, people have to understand, they're not in that 1 percentile. And I don't know when they tell them. I tell them that shit all the time. I'm like, man, listen, son, you're not going to even go D1. So if you're not, you need to come coach with my butt, because I know you have some, like Alan in the chat, who was a D1 quarterback. Hi, Leah, and I brought him to Garden City, and I don't know if you and Alan know each other yet. Alan and you should be talking, because he's JUCO. He runs that stuff on that side. But like, he got into coaching. I gave him some references. He got in, and like 13 other guys I got coaching D1. Coy Dang right now, who played at Cal, who was on the same team with Jermaine, who got a shot with the Falcons. He's now at Oregon State. I got him up there. Another kid that played for one of my best friends, Kalani, at BYU, hired one of my other kids who you probably know and helped out. So, like, there's a lot of this going on. But I want to address this, and I want to bring Matt in. He just hopped in. I'm going to bring him in about 2 minutes. I want to address and just ask that question before you leave. I want to address one thing about the young brothers getting jobs. And here's my take on it, coming from a white boy from Compton who's helped nothing but brothers my whole life. Here's the take I got. Like, people don't want to talk about it and have this conversation. The brothers they have to be hired. And I say have to because this is how crazy it is in this business. It's a meat market, not only for black players, but for black coaches. No one wants to have this conversation. The young brother is to do what? Recruit the brother.
Recruit.
90% of the rosters in college football. Recruit the brothers, and then make sure that they're not getting out of hand and out there robbing McDonald's or messing around the dorm with the girls. We know the real, but they don't want to have these conversations on ESPN and all these other things.
That is the absolute truth. They're using the recruit to go sit at the family reunion so everybody likes them and they convince them to come back.
Track me.
School. Yeah, that's the truth.
Like, and the cool part is, though, here's the crazy part that no one's going to talk about. They don't get to move up, coach.
No, they pigeonhole them.
They put them down there to say, you're the running back coach or the tight end coach. You'll never get better. Coach, I played DB at college. It don't matter. We need you over here. You're going to learn how to be a GA first. But I need you to really control Johnny and these cats from
Well,
going out,
what they do, JP, they pay them enough to quit their dreams.
analysts.
I met with so many guys, and once they start hitting that 400,000 or 500,000 mark and up, I mean, you got to think we got guys in the SEC and Big Ten making 800 grand to coach 3 guys, right? But they're excellent recruiters. And so now when jobs come open, when potential head coaching jobs come open, they haven't coordinated, they haven't coached one of the key positions, and they're not pushing the needle because they don't want to lose their salary, because now your kid's in private school, your wife doesn't work, you don't want to give up the lifestyle, so they're really paying you enough to quit your dreams. I asked a really good coaching friend of mine who's one of the best coaches in the nation, and I said, when these jobs come open, is your agent even discussing with you the head jobs that come open in Conference USA or the Sun Belt? No, but he's going to bounce from position job to position job within the SEC. He's going to always help somebody else win, but he's never going to get the opportunity to really run a program. And then they start paying you so much that even if an FCS job comes open, they just can't make the money make sense on a pay cut like that. So it is a systematic situation, but they're going to use you to recruit. I interviewed Deshaun Foster, the head coach at UCLA, last week, and one of the things he stressed to me was you cannot, under any circumstances, allow yourself to be pigeonholed as a recruiter. And even if they're not giving you the education that you need to improve yourself as a coach, you got to go out of your way to get the education yourself.
Yeah,
you got
here's the thing. Like, not to cut you off, I think this is what the main issue is. I'm gonna bring Matt in here to discuss it for 1 minute. If you got 2 minutes left, I gotta ask you, like, they're never trained to be a head coach. They manage 0 scholarship dollars. They manage 0 budget. They have no clue how to order transportation. They don't have any clue on how to be a head coach and what that job and this seat actually entails, because you are the manager of your position and don't worry about nothing else. And when a head job comes open, you're the best recruiter on the staff. You're probably the best position coach on the staff. The players love you, and you have the relationship with every damn brother on that team as the recruiter who got them. And then the head coach ultimately is the guy that said, "Oh, hey, I'm out." Good job for that, though. I just left from Temple to go take the Miami job in Manny Diaz's instance. And now, guess what? Where are those assistants? I didn't take the assistants. You weren't good enough to come with me to Miami, quote unquote. So. It's crazy. I want to bring in Matt real quick, and I want to have this. Matt, good morning. Carl Reed, 247 Sports, gave you a compliment. He thinks you're a great O-line coach. He thinks you're a great O-line coach. I said, Matt's just an asshole who yells. He's not no damn coach. But we had a great conversation, Matt, and I don't want to take Carl's time. He's been on 30 minutes. He brought up a fact that he said he don't know about unionizing. He said that he can see why you like it. He said that he thinks if he was the kid, this is speaking from the kid's perspective, he thinks the kid should leave it as it is and want it as it is. I know you've been talking about unionizing with me for years on this show. Carl, explain that real quick to him as to why, and then I want to hear Matt's take, and then before you leave out of here, I appreciate you coming on.
I feel like with unionizing, it's going to limit the money that the top guys can make. It's going to put a cap on it for those guys. If I was one of those guys, I wouldn't want it. But it is going to be beneficial to guys that are backups, to guys that are at the lower end of the roster, making sure that they get paid an amount of money they probably wouldn't under the current landscape. So being an offensive line guy, I would understand why you would think that, that makes sense for those guys, because they may not get the same money as a quarterback, as a receiver, as some of those guys in the marketing world. But if I was one of the top players in the country, I wouldn't want that at all. Not even if I was one of the top offensive linemen that was going to get drafted in the first or second round, because they're getting paid quite as much as well in collective and guaranteed marketing deals.
Okay, I mean, look, the top players are always going to get the biggest piece of the pie. In the NFL, it's no different. There's a bunch of league minimum cats, just like you were just talking about, that play for 3 or 4 years and then fade away, and guys who make generational wealth and have fuck you money. So I guess I want the college kids to get a piece of the revenue from the television deals. That's the main part for me. So I don't know how you don't unionize and make that happen. So if everybody can show me a model where they can get revenue sharing with the TV deals and with everything else that happens like the NFL players do, because that's where the real money is, and everybody knows it. So I think it's a travesty that all these kids run out there and give away their talent, and they just hope that some – see, I deal with NIL collectives and people, and they're cheap as fuck, and they don't want to give anybody any money, and they are all full of shit, and all of them are blowing smoke up these kids' asses because they do not have anybody working for them. And then I'm a football consigliere. I'm not an agent or anything because there's no agents in college football, but that's another problem. There's nobody sitting there telling them that this is bullshit. So of course kids are going to jump at things that aren't, that don't have any longevity. I think that the NIL it works for Travis Hunter and Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning and shit. That's great. That it's going to work for them. They're superstars. Unless it's working for everyone, because you need everyone to do this. You can't just parade Travis Hunter and Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning and Shedeur Sanders and all these big timers out and play football without everybody else, the most important parts of the team, which are your offensive and defensive linemen. And ask Shedeur and Coach Prime and Travis Hunter last year if they had any offensive and defensive linemen that could fucking play, they would have been an 8-4 football team instead of a 4-8 football team, period. So, yeah, as an offensive and defensive line guy, I probably do think that everybody needs to be unionized because I want people to get paid what they're worth. And acting as if the superstars are the only ones and then that's the problem. When superstars look at this model and go, well, I can just get paid out the ass, but fuck all these other guys. Eventually, all the other guys, just like the country we live in, is going to say, nah, I don't like this model. This sucks. And
hey, let me ask you this, Carl. Let me ask you guys this.
Without the grunts, there is no shine. Everyone needs to remember that shit. Without all the grunts, there are no fucking superstars.
And that's Carl's point. That's why he figured you would like it. I got to ask you this, though, both of you, like to Matt's point. There's a reason, in my opinion, the collectives are becoming a little more hesitant to throw that bag out there when we have a portal that's open, it seems like 27 times, 24/7, 365. So when these guys are bouncing after they get a bag or an offer, it seems like I would be hesitant as a money guy as well, Carl, to throw out money. So we got a huge issue.
With a lot of these collectives, though, one of the reasons they're hesitant is because a lot of them don't have the money that people think that they have. And so you're asking guys to keep writing checks. Even when you're talking about millionaires and billionaires, they're only going to write checks so many times. There was a defensive lineman in the SEC last year. I'm not going to name him or the school, but he went to the pros early. And when him and I talked, I said, why are you going to the pros, bro? You got a day 3 grade. You need to go back to school. Well, he was promised $400,000 and didn't get one check. This is at a big-time SEC program. A lot of these guys are not getting paid. A lot of them don't have their agreements wrote on contracts. There are SEC schools right now that are not able to make payroll next month for their collective. They're out raising money right now so they can pay the bills of the money that they've already promised out. So the collective model is not a sustainable model either, because those guys are not working with the amount of money that people think they are. But the players are kind of out of whack because they believe everything they read on the internet and they think everybody's making $1 million and they're not. And there are several players that are just too embarrassed to say, I don't really have no money, bro. I haven't gotten paid anything that I was supposed to get paid. And I even forfeited my Pell Grant because I'm supposed to be getting paid this amount of money. And I'm really
Carl,
stuck out there right now.
It's not just fucking spat. Just spitting things.
We've been saying this. I told Matt, I said, if the kids really knew and a cat set them down and that actually cared for the kid and not just goddamn chasing the bag as a coach and leaving from job to job, which I think they should be able to do as a grown man because they've earned that right. But at the same time, if you're going to promise a kid and leave them, I think you're a coward and you're a liar to a bunch of kids who you use as a piece of meat in this meat market. But to your point, I'm like, dog, we're talking about this. The average NIL deal is $350. See, nobody wants to talk about it, and no one wants to bring it up because you see Caleb Williams, Shedeur Sanders making $2, $3, $4 million. But when it's $350 in that locker room, to Matt's point, and I'm looking as the left guard as the backup, and I'm looking across, and I'm hearing Nick Saban rip my ass, and then I'm looking at him like, hold on, I just protected your Heisman quarterback on a natty, and I make $400. Like, I'm leaving.
I'm going to speak on this on personal experience right now, being a business owner that works with kids in NIL, okay? My own guys that I've been working with since they were 14, 15, 16 years old that go to college and play their asses off, and a lot of them, and they're in the NFL, okay? I can't get my own college guys to appreciate the worth of $1 with my own body bag, the 60 equipment company. So my deal is I'll send you a bag. It's worth $1,000. I'll give it to you. I'll give you a promo code. And then every time you sell a bag, whether you're Trey Zune at Texas A&M or you're Cole Taylor at West Virginia or you're Jake Wiley at Houston or whoever, or you're Josh Bates at Oklahoma, like whether you're one of these big time guys that's starting for one of these schools. Cole Taylor was second team all Big 12 last year. Going to be a draft pick. So Trey Zune started 40 straight games at A&M from Fort Collins, fucking big tackle who's an athlete. He's going to be a draft pick. I can't get them or the NIL collectives because it's a bunch of smug assholes who just want to deal with multi-million-dollar deals to understand the benefit of starting somewhere. Like, I want to see if you can handle this part of the business in order for me to give you more money and more responsibility as a business. And then once you have an NIL deal, it feels the next NIL deal. And all these kids are so goddamn smug, and their parents are so smug. And the coaches and the NIL people, not the coaches because they're not really involved. The NIL people are so smug. I sent a bag to Trey Zune to Texas A&M. They won't even allow him to put it on social media, and they won't allow him to do the media deal or the NIL deal because it didn't go through them. Well, I thought this was name, image, and likeness. He's one of my players before he was at Texas A&M. In fact, I sent him there. So my thing is, like, if the kids don't understand the starting point, if they
value of $1,
if they can't put a value of $1 on the table, exactly, how can you expect, if you can't make $100 and humble yourself that way and show you can sell something with your name, image, and likeness, how in the hell are you ever going to make $1 million?
But Matt, the reason
they're all chasing that one.
This is my point. No one understands how to build. I had to build into a player and getting my NFL pension. I had to change positions. I had to get cut. I had to eat shit, so on and so forth. I didn't have NIL. But I'll tell you one thing, if I did in college, I damn sure wouldn't be telling somebody as a small business owner in the community, no, it's not good enough.
Go ahead, Carl.
4 years ago, you were getting a stipend check, you smug fucking brat. Like, these kids have got to understand they're the problem too. It's not just the NIL guys. There's a problem with the generation too. It's a problem thinking, and Coach has said this a million times. I don't know how many coaches he's had on here, and I used to think one way, and now I think a totally different way. It is a systemic problem with the kids thinking that they've earned this shit because they put on pads. You do not fucking earn this just because you have pads on. Period.
So, Matt, the thing with that, though, the players don't want to sell the product. They want you to just give them the money.
Well, that's my point. Why would I do that as a business owner?
But that also goes with when you put them in a collective bargaining situation. So, because you want everybody to get paid equally, that's really the same thing. That they're getting something for nothing. Because a guy put on the pads and he's a second-string offensive lineman or a third-string offensive lineman that never plays, I don't think he deserves part of the team.
Time out. So you're saying that through the NFL collective bargaining agreement, because I was a backup my whole career, I don't deserve my pension?
No, that's not what I'm saying. You're moving the fence. That's apples and oranges. At that point, you've made it into the National Football League, which is the highest level of football. In college, you're not in the National Football League yet. So you don't deserve a piece of the revenue if you're a third-string offensive lineman in college. So the guy that is the third-string guard at Temple, he deserves TV revenue sharing.
Well, yeah, because a year from now he could be the starting All-American guard that goes to the league. That's the way it works.
When he does that, then he should get paid. When he does that,
but so much of football is on potential. So much of football is on potential. These kids that are in high school right now that are Brett Quillier, and Reese Russell, okay? Matt Russell's son, Butkus Award winner, Matt Russell, okay? And Reese Russell, his son's a sophomore. And then Brett Cloutier was at Valor here, has like 30 offers, just got fucking Alabama and LSU last week. He's going to be a junior. They are both going to be throwing a ton of money their way to see where they're going to school. And it's not like, oh, well, we've got a nice chemistry department. They don't give a shit about that, and they shouldn't. But they're being offered on potential. Why are they any different?
Well, what happens when they go and they don't bust a grape in college? Then what? Well, then how do you reconcile?
You got to pay them to get them there, though.
Or to Carl's point, I think, what if they transfer though from the third string in between seasons where they've already got revenue sharing and they don't even play for my school?
Well, what if they don't? What if they go there and they live up to potential and ball the fuck out?
Then they deserve everything that's coming to them for that.
Yeah,
I think they're getting it before, guys. But hold on, they're getting it before. So if you're a 4 or 5 star recruit, you can get it before. But if you're a 3-star recruit, you have to earn it when you get there. That's fucking bullshit. That's just some.
No. I think Carl said NIL.
No,
but the 247 rankings and like all the nerds in those rooms, I don't know how many times they've been wrong, but it's a fucking lot.
But there's two different things going on. That's what I think Carl and I are saying. Not to disagree with you on that part, but my point is, NIL now is becoming separate than what this revenue sharing is going to be. Revenue sharing is going to be the NFL salary, so to speak. NIL is going to be extra.
I'm not advocating for the backup guy to make as much as the starter.
No, I know.
That's not what I'm saying at all. I am saying, though, there's a way, and a very productive way, that will keep people on rosters and under contract that you can develop and actually build something. It just like they do in the NFL. Don't act like the NFL isn't a foundation league. The teams that fucking draft well are the teams that win the 90% of the time. So if you recruit well and you can actually have a foundation to pay some of these guys and keep them around, isn't it right to pay for potential if you believe in your development? Because that's really what I think the problem is. So many of these coaches are hired, just like you guys just said, just to manage and make sure guys aren't doing stupid shit. Well, are you being hired to develop the talent that you bring in, or are you being hired to manage the talent that you bring in? Because a manager is a friend, a developer is a coach, and those are two very different things. So if you look at some of the schools around the country that do a good job developing, what's the traits that they have that some of these other schools don't have, where they're going places where they get a bunch of 4 and 5 star kids who transfer and don't feel like they're developed because they're being managed rather than coached.
So on the developmental, but Matt, on the developmental end, though, what happens to the guard that has 4 O-line coaches in 4 years? So that's the other side of it. So
you should have picked a better school.
Okay, well, I mean, that's easy to say. You know what I mean? But
I had the same defensive line coach and the same head coach for all 5 years in college. I know it's a different era, but still.
But coach, come on now, you played a long time ago, though.
Yeah, but I just said it was a long time ago. Pretty rare, but to act like it doesn't happen is also not true. There's guys that go places and stay with the same coach the whole time, and there's guys that go places and have 10 different coaches.
You are if you fortunate enough to play at if you fortunate enough to be good enough out of high school to play at Oklahoma or Georgia or Alabama, one of those places, there is going to be some consistency in coaches. But that goes back to what you originally said, when there's only a handful of guys that are able to go to those type of situations.
Yeah, I agree. I
think there's more kids that could go if coaches back full circle. And this is a great conversation, bro. But a full circle, like, I can't tell you how many coaches stand there in my gym and watch, and the same kid the same exact player who's better a lot of the cases is a 3-star and the other kid's a 4-star, and they just look at their screen and they're like, oh, well, he's a 4-star and he's a 3-star. I can't recruit him because he's a 3-star. And I'm like, that's some coward bullshit. That is some straight coward bullshit. That's
a different conversation. We can have that conversation.
This is the way you lose, bro, by ignoring film and looking at stars. But the star, you know this, stars get guys paid, though.
They do.
Like, they take players off of stars, and there's guys, you know this too. There are parents and coaches out there in high school that pay these places, 247 and Rivals and these people behind closed doors and fucking tickle balls to get their guys ranked.
I've never had my balls tickled.
Well, man,
hey,
we got
Carl.
the wrong people.
Hey, Carl, Hey, man, I can't thank you enough for having this conversation. We got to do it again, Carl. We got to do it again because I know you like the real stuff.
Balls tickled. This is unacceptable.
Hey, Carl, there's a whole nother conversation that this goes into as well. It talks about why I think JUCO is imploding and why high school football, at the end of the day, is our blood life. That's no longer our blood life. It's going to run out. The blood life is now the portal, and it's eventually going to run itself dry. And we are going to sit here and waste high school and junior college talent. And junior college may implode because they can't fund it. They don't have the resources. And if cats aren't leaving 4 years to go back to JUCO, which was the original portal, and the reason why we made that way, I don't see how it's sustainable. I think we're losing.
What about Dabo, Carl? What do you think about Dabo's comment about a lot of these guys in the portal can't play Clemson? I think if it would have came from somebody other than Dabo, it would have been received better. But I think he's right.
He's right. But like I was telling JB before you got on, I do think there's 30 to 50 kids a year that he should be getting involved with that would be a great culture fit and would be able to play well at other schools. And I see him getting into that because he's one competitive dude. And I don't think he's going to be comfortable winning 8 or 9 games a year and not being in the race. I expect next season for you to, and not, he hasn't said this to me. I don't have any inside information, but just knowing how competitively fierce he is, I don't see him not wanting to compete for a national championship. So there are some great character guys that he knows that they missed out on that might have went other places that played well. If he gets the opportunity to get them, I think that he will.
Hey, Carl, you mentioned
Carl mentioned that he didn't have his nuts tickled lately, and that's unacceptable. So we've got to make sure this is not continuous.
Hey, Carl, what's the school you mentioned in Missouri? The one right outside of St. Louis.
What you say? What now?
What's the school you mentioned in Missouri?
Lindenwood.
Hey, you gotta give me that job. That motherfucker's a powerhouse waiting to happen. I'll tell you right now.
Lindenwood. They just took one of my quarterbacks last year, Tyler Cooper from Ridge, same place.
They got one of the best mega camps in the country too. JB, before I get out of here, I want to ask you something. Can JUCO football be saved?
No.
I'm sitting right here, Carl. It would happen if I was in it. I don't believe it can now without me in it. I'm not even being cocky. I'm just telling you that I don't believe the kids that are being coached by certain people in the country would be leaving if I was in JUCO, because I think the attraction would say, oh shit, JUCO means something again. So and that's not being boastful. I'm just saying the fact of the matter is JUCO needs some sort of spark to say, hey, this isn't as bad as we thought. Look at Jermaine Johnson, Tank Dell. Look at the 28 other cats I got in the league. How about Aaron Rodgers, Cam Newton, Chad Johnson, Steve Smith? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, that needs to be brought back up.
I'm gonna put you on the spot in front of all your fans here, big man. I'm gonna put JB on the spot.
Yeah, what's up?
Can I get you and Jeff Sims in the room to squash the beef and go on a campaign for junior college football?
Are you gonna be able not to beat the shit out of each other?
Can I get y'all in the room?
It wouldn't be a big fight.
Number one, it'll be great television. Number two, right? Can we get in the room? It's been a lot of time has passed. You guys have also shown to be very successful businessmen away from the football field. You're doing great and he's doing great. But I know you both love junior college football. You both are really good friends of mine, and you've had some issues. And I haven't talked to Jeff about this. I'm putting you on the spot on your show. I'm going to call him too today. Can I get you and Jeff Sims in a room together? We all sit there. We air out our grievances.
I say yes. And
we move on, because I think you two guys together can save junior college football. So are you guys willing to put it all aside? Me and Big Matt will be there in the room with y'all.
I'll stand in the middle. I'll mediate.
Yeah. And we'll get it all out, right? And then we'll put a campaign together, and you and Coach Sims can go all over the country. We'll get a big sponsor, and you save junior college football.
But let me ask you, there has to be a means to the end. What is it going to give us at the end of the day if these administrators? Not really, because here's the thing, and I know, Carl, this could be a conversation we have forever. Like, if the administration is scared of guys like Sims and I, which they are,
They are.
make no mistake about it. If they're the ones pulling the plug and making the decision to allow that, if they're not allowing it, my guess, I don't see the point. Just because I'm always willing for you, I'll do anything. But I'm just saying, like, I think there's an issue. Like, if there's no ends in sight, like we can actually attain, I don't know if it's worth it. Just like that's why no one will hire me. Like, they're scared of shit. And like, look at the jobs that are coming open, Carl. Like, you should see the JUCO jobs that come open, and people hit me up, and I'm like, as soon as I talk to an administrator that finds out who I am, they're like, oh shit. And I'm like, I have no criminal record, Carl. I've won football games and sent more players to college than any JUCO coach in the country for 20 years, and yet now Netflix came out and I can't coach no more. Apparently, I
think that in order for us to have that conversation, that's something that comes from us solving y'all issue with each other first, and then with everybody in the room, those ideas and those solutions can be brought to the table and come to light. It's just something to put on your mind. You don't have to answer right now.
No, I hear you. No, I appreciate it.
We'll talk about it offline.
No doubt.
I think you both are reasonable men, and I think enough time has passed that, you guys bring a tremendous amount of value. And I know you both deeply care about what's happened with junior college football, and I think that we still need that option for kids.
I think we should do it.
Yeah, let's talk. We'll talk off camera, and I appreciate you coming on, man. Always. We'll have to get you back on, and I got to ask you about Deion and your interview with him and Matt's interview, and talk about what you think about Shedeur and the real future of them. And do you think Deion will be there after next year? I want to ask you all those things. So either bring me on your show, or I'll come on you, or come back here before the season starts.
All right, let's do it, brother.